Welcome to another episode of Theology Talks You Like or Not, TTYL or Not. I am your host, Rev Dessain, and I'm so excited that I have my little brother. Listen, this brother here, I am so honored to have encountered him almost 6 years ago now. Yes,
Yeah.
almost 6 years ago now. Please welcome Josh Riddick to TTYL or Not. What's up, Josh?
What's up, Dasha? I
How you?
can't believe it's almost been 6 years.
Crazy, right?
Half a decade.
Half a why you gotta do it like when you said it like that? Just
But we were babies back then, so it's okay.
made me feel so old. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Theology Talk You Like or Not. I am your creator, curator, investigator, sometime instigator, but definitely a liberator, Rev Dessain. And for a few moments of your sacred time in this sacred space, I invite you to tune in as we talk good, talk back, talk loud, talk smack, talk life and love, talk true, talk music, talk art, talk faith, hope, peace, joy, talk justice, talk God. Let's talk. Tell the people how we met.
Yeah, so while I was entering my last year of undergrad work as a student, I had come across this opportunity through this evangelical mission organization called YouthWorks. They're, one of my problematic faves in the sense that I love to talk about what they do poorly, but they were an organization that at the time I thought was doing really exciting work of taking people like me, putting us in different contexts to help lead groups through different service and mission outreaches. And so I applied, got in, made it very clear, like, I know y'all do work in like rural West Virginia and rural Vermont. I'm not about that. You got to send me to a city somewhere. And they said, cool, we're actually about to launch a new initiative in Philadelphia. And so that was the team that Dasha was actually leading. And it was a summer rooted in struggle, rooted in strife. But Dasha and I formed our little community. And I think through that challenge, forged a really dope relationship. Between the kind of the white evangelical culture that we were having to attend to every week, we we're getting worked hard. Like we could shower once a day, type of stuff. It was weird. Like we slept on a school floor. The kitchen we cooked in had mice in it and rats in it, but kids ate there, so like that's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
But right, that's a real issue. We were asked to partner with a church, and the church they partnered us with was, what I had hoped to be a really beautiful, traditionally Black church community, but had some kind of cult of personality issues within their leadership, and so there was a unfortunate dynamic that made us always feel like guests, and even more so outsiders as they communicated some rather harmful theology. It was also the same summer as the Charleston shootings. And so when Dylan Roof murdering, those Black parishioners, and uh, that kind of energy, we had white churches coming into our community every week, not knowing what to do with that. We were attending a Black church that was um, quickly becoming a space of, well, if white people come in here, we're gonna have to be ready. And so we just sat in the middle of that dynamic all summer and had already some issues on our team, and whiteness was abound, and it just made for a really difficult summer, but we had each other's back, and made it through. And I think all the time we spent together allowed for some really cool. Dasha was just coming out of seminary, and so
What?
she was still deconstructing things. I was, curious about what that process would look like, and so I was always kind of pressing, always curious. And so she was processing stuff. I was getting to kind of get a little bit of that wisdom, and that was really formative to me as I returned back to my undergrad and finished that following year.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You see sharp. This mind of his is so sharp. That's why I love this dude, yo. I totally forgot. You're bringing so much emotion as while you're sharing these memories because I remember one day in particular when the Charleston shooting happened, and I believe it was like a midweek service we attended, and I remember clearly hearing from the minister that was preaching, um, saying something as much as I was, hurt by what happened, but I think it was something in reference to.
I remember what he said. He lamented the shooting and then said, here at this church, that won't happen. We
Yes.
will welcome a white brother and sister, but please know we got folks with that thing on them too.
Yeah.
And if we, I was like, hold on, which deacon over here strapped? Like, I would like to know that. I'm not a threat, but I would just like to know.
And here's the thing, Josh, for me, like, that all could be true, right? That there's some there, people come to church. I've been in spaces where I know a pastor is carrying, right?
Yes,
Like, right
yes.
there's the Bible and there's the bullet right there, right? No lie. But to say that openly, it made me uncomfortable. And then
Yeah.
just the inconsistency in the theology too, just that whole summer. I mean, I thank God that summer, I thank God for technology. Because the text message and the memes that literally people, man, that kept me in church. Hello.
We were having our own subversive liturgies in the
Yeah.
middle of the service. It was our only way to survive because the degree of toxicity I think that you had to carry was certainly greater than I would have had to have carried, just being a lighter skinned dude in the church, or this kind of presumed like skill or capacity that I had,
Mm.
that may or may not have been there. Whereas for you, it was like you were the team lead, you were the point of contact for the organization that was partnering with the church, and they just disregarded you left and right,
Oh,
on top of just communicating extremely harmful theology. And so, our looks to the side, our text messages, the memes, like all of that was the only way we would have made it through.
indeed. I'm just so grateful. I really am. When I and that's been my experience really when I enter into predominantly white institution organization. I'm like, God, why have you sent me here? What have I come to learn? And I experienced pain and hardship. But when I look back, my Baptist self, when I look back,
Hey.
I see how it has propelled me and prepared me. Earlier we were talking about my interim position at the Mennonite church, and I believe the reason why I was able to step into that position the way that I did was because of the experience I had as a social worker, working with all type of people as a therapist when I was a therapist in Miami as well as in Atlanta, but also my experience with YouthWorks, really having to come face to face with white liberals, evangelicals, who really thought they were doing the work, and they were to the capacity of that they have been doing the work, right? But when you come face to face, when you encounter that work, and when you encounter that work, that black body, that queer body, you know what I mean, with the nappiness, you know what I'm saying, the intellectual, the unapologetically black queer woman of color, black man of color, you have to wrestle. And I believe we were often put in that position, and I believe we did well. I believe God will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Yes, yes. We did some, I think we did some incredible work to not bend to whiteness in a way that the institution would have asked, the organization we work for, and in a way that I think planted seeds for what I hope, will birth liberation for, the white students that came through our midst, that they themselves can go through a radical transformation and deconstruction through that experience. Because I know what we offered is radically different, and we took the playbook, kind of threw it out the windows, and we got to build something different here,
Yes,
and we did.
we did. We did. Josh, let's talk about your leaving, completing school. And I know you married the love of your life. Let's talk about you being an adult now, fatherhood, marriage life. Like, how has that been for you?
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's certainly not been without challenge, but I think what I was presented as, kind of the narrative around parenthood, and being a spouse was, it's this beautiful sacrifice where like you give up everything for the sake of your kids and for your spouse, and that's in a lot of ways that's how my family was modeled. As my when my mom remarried, watching my dad. really give up so much for us as a family was really cool to see, both in kind of like aspirational career direction and submitting to certain opportunities in the way that I never really quite heard what their dreams were, because they felt a conviction to support and ensure the sustainability of my family, our family. And so when I became a parent, I started to look at those narratives a bit different, because I was in the midst of what I believed to be my own personal calling, and I saw the ways in which that disrupted or took away time from my family. So I wrestle with, what have I been invited to by the divine,
Mhm.
and is it exactly what am I perceiving that correctly? Am I discerning that correctly? Because what the outcomes are strife, struggle, and what feels like to a degree of suffering.
You,
I'm in
you
this. I'm in.
better give the S's. Oh, back the strife and suffering. You a good Baptist. That's a good Baptist preacher in you.
I'm slowly unlocking it. So, what I'm saying? Like these experiences were happening. I was also kind of coming into my own. That summer in YouthWorks was really the first summer I felt like I could step into the fullness of my blackness, and I was still exploring what that meant. That when I'm in a historically white, university, Christian university nonetheless, I am always shrinking. I'm always softening edges. I'm always becoming less. And as I entered into adulthood, I was looking around like, I don't have to do that anymore. And so I became more outspoken. I became more vocal. I became more of who I am. And that disrupted some of the relationships, both familially and then also, with friends. And so I had to renegotiate what community meant.
Mm,
And so, I mentioned the calling piece because I realized that in order for me to be a sustainable spouse and parent, I had to find a way to sustain myself. And I had seen so many models of parents where that just either one or both parents weren't doing that. And whether it be in church spaces, whether it be kind of just family looking, and I didn't want to embody that. I needed to have that community. I needed to have that rest. I needed to have that time away. And narratives of capitalism, productivity had shaped both my personal life, my spiritual life, how I understood my calling. And it was just work, 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 grind, grind, hustle. And I preached a week after my oldest daughter was born, my 2-year-old. She was born a week later. I'm in there giving a sermon. The week after, I'm in there giving I didn't take time off. And I look back, I'm like, I don't remember the first 3 months of this kid's life,
wow.
because I was telling myself, I got to support, I got to sustain, I got to keep grinding. There was no, wall that would, we wouldn't have ran into anything. We wouldn't have fallen apart if I slowed down, if I took some steps back. So for me, the biggest kind of shift is being able to say, how do I make myself more present? How do I make myself more available? How do I start looking at my family as a means of my own formation, and start investing more time and space into that? That my children can actually be a space where I'm being formed as a better human, and being able to love the world better, love them better, by submitting to their needs and their presence. And that's also kind of helped reinforce my own identity formation journey, as I have to start to ask, who am I aside from my work? Who am I aside from my ministry context? And realizing some of the areas that I found that I didn't actually know.
Who are you, Josh? Now, I mean, you're always evolving, and I know you are a reader. I mean, this boy can read. That summer, you must have read like a book a day. I mean,
Oh, it was a lot. It was a lot.
who are you now with big? I mean, I know you're a father, you're a spouse. Like when you strip all those titles, those roles, those responsibility away, who do you say Josh Reddick to be?
Yeah, I would say um, I'm a person who's deeply curious about what makes me and others kind of move and tick. Like I'm always investigating what are the deeper narratives of others and what are the deeper narratives of myself. I'm really drawn to helping people break out of harmful or toxic narratives, whether it's family, spirituality, cultural. And that's like defined so much of me, is like I'm a learner, I'm a listener, I'm a seeker, for the purpose of getting to those spaces with individuals, and for myself. Like I'm not at all divested or disconnected from that energy or that motion within my own body. So black man, a reader, student, those are other things I would define myself as well. And those things have been more and more pronounced the more older I get, and it's been beautiful to see that and exciting to see that, and that kind of constant evolution. Um, that I, in ministry context, we talk about deconstruction like it's kind of a bad thing, or it should be a short-term process, as if we're not always deconstructing and reconstructing. And certainly, some people opt not for reconstruction. Certain people aren't ready for that reconstruction process, or maybe too much pain or trauma, or just need more time to heal. Um, whereas others avoid it entirely, and I love that process of deconstruction. I think it's beautiful, it's exciting. If we get to reconstruction, we get there, but for me, being able to peel back the layers is the best part of the experience.
Sometimes I think those deconstruction and reconstruction can happen simultaneously, right? There's construction, the foundational things that we've been given, the narrative we've been given, right? I think that's where most of the wrestle happen, like the construct and the deconstruct, like not being willing to give up those foundation or questioning those foundation. But when we finally get to deconstruction, oh, it's just like it's the sense of the beginning of freedom and liberation, right? The walls comes down, the light begins to shine in. And I don't know who I was listening to. I don't know if it was Adrienne Marie Brown, or there's so many great liberators and speakers that are out there doing the work. But oftentimes we think that there needs to be a replacement, right?
Yes.
And sometimes
Yes.
it doesn't. Sometimes it just needs to be deconstructed and thrown away. Like
Yes.
you throw it away, and there doesn't need to be a replacement. Not everything needs to be replaced. Some things just need patriarchy, needs to be capitalism, needs to be put away. Like we don't have to replace it with anything. And a lot of times there are already things there, like I love
Right.
the barter system, the African traditional way of bartering. Like what is it that we can share within the community for the upliftment of the whole community of the people, right? And so there are things that we can, rather we borrow or we adopt, that's already there. We don't have to create this new
Right.
thing. So yeah, I love that particular word. Josh, tell me some of your influence. Who are the people that are shaping you these days, especially as we're talking about construction, deconstruction, reconstruction? What are the things that you have to like viscerally like shift? And this was the person that I looked to, and now I had to like shift, and like these are the people that are influencing me now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I think just in general, when we first met, and then for maybe a year after, my biggest influences were, evangelical voices that were in urban context. And, the reason I was reading so much that summer was because I was realizing that those voices were lacking to the experiences that we were having and the experiences in the city itself that we were encountering. And so I was, searching who are the people that are actually talking about embodied Blackness, who are the people that are talking about challenging systems of oppression in urban context. Where is this occurring? Where is this happening? And so for me, the last few years, the one of the bigger influences has been Christina Cleveland. She was a former professor at Duke Divinity, and has written extensively about the marginalization and abuse she experienced there, and left. And I actually got to take a class with her as she was towards the tail end of that. And where she was at as an individual, I'm not going to speak to that too much. She's written on that, it's her narrative, but having to walk alongside her just for a short period of time, where I myself was kind of questioning my own calling and asking her, well, Christina, where's the hope in the evangelical church? And she was like, there isn't any. And why do you need that?
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. And that like really rocked me. And so that encounter, one, locked me in with her work. But two, it really knocked me off my square with everyone else I was listening to and who I was kind of shaping my ear towards. So at this point, folks like Kelly Brown Douglas, Willie James Jennings, Willa Gaffney, who's a biblical scholar down in Texas, those
Yeah.
are the folks that I really, really enjoy and really, really like, and have really appreciated in the last couple of years.
Can I say I'm so proud of you? I, like I'm just so proud of you. Like you're doing it. And I was like, I remember when you told me you were getting married, and I'm like, you got married, then Bryn got married. I'm like, these are my babies. And I'm like, they're so young. But I'm just so proud that you're doing it, and you're always examining yourselves and re-examining yourself. That is so important, especially when you have a family and you're raising children, because you're shaping those young minds to live in this world like that we're trying to create and leave
Yes.
them to exist in, right? um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm in awe of you. I am proud of you. just the strides that you have made. A lot has happened in 5 years for you, 5, 6.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think you certainly have a role to play in that. I mean, you planted some seeds that, leaving that summer, I couldn't ignore. The way in which you framed your God talk, leaving seminary, and brought that into a space that was, disruptive, and for some people, I'm sure perceived as disrespectful. I was very curious about it. I was like, this image of Mother God's really fascinating, and I like it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I don't know if I care yet. And so just continuing to hold those things open-handedly. And I think you presented kind of Christ, our Black Mother, as this kind of, as the first part, you're the first person to kind of point that out to me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. We had a conversation about that over by wasn't Strawberry Mansion. I'm trying to remember where it was at, but you turned down the wrong way, not a one way, because we were so entrenched in a conversation about deconstructing the maleness of God. I do. We almost hit a car, so and I wasn't driving, so I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten.
I don't think we put that in the report that for the week.
Oh, never happened on paper. But I mean that's how rich the conversation was. Like, you just started breaking traffic laws because we were really spinning some good stuff. And so those conversations, I had nowhere else to go with those, but I kept holding on to them. And so as I continue to encounter people like Kelly Brown Douglas, Christina Cleveland, they just continue to water that seed, and it's manifested in some really, I think, exciting, beautiful ways.
Yeah. And I would offer that you brought some balance to me too, because I know I came out, I mean, fresh out of seminary. Listen,
You're right.
I was
Tear
walking
everything
out of
down.
church. Man, I was supposed to, I remember I was at least 2 or 3 times I walked out of church when I was supposed to sit. I said, I can't do it, Josh. I'm out. I'm out.
To be fair, those every one of those times was a legitimate reason to walk out of church. Was never there was I mean, again, you were never acknowledged as a full member there, and so they never were going to respond to your protest. But I always appreciated when you did it. It was always for me a barometer. I was mentally checked out, but when I was like, oh gosh, I left. They must have said something problematic again. Um, I mean, that once you started doing that, I started going to a different church.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
remember.
was, you were like the canary in the coal mine. Like, look, if she can't sit in here,
I
what
couldn't.
am I? What am I doing in here?
Yeah, because I was in the middle of that deconstructing, reconstructing, and it's like, and what they were offering for me was the things that I had thrown away, and it was doing damage to this new vessel.
Trying to put old wine in new wineskins. It wasn't
Listen,
working.
I was just about to say the word. That's it. You can't do it to me. Like, it made me uncomfortable. I was like feeling like I was becoming Hulk. Like, like I was so grateful to have you in that space. Even as you were going through your own process, I think what you brought for me was balance. Like, Dasha, yeah, you just came out of seminary, and you're not really trying to go back to where you've been. Um, but also being able to meet people where they're at, where they are at, right? This is Mystic Howard Thurman always talk about meeting people at the ashtray level, right? Like, meet them where they're at. And so I think you brought that reminder to me, just the way you also led and had compassion, the way that you interacted with the youth, regardless of what their leader was saying. Like, I've seen you like pull some youth to the side, and when they were struggling and having a hard time dealing with things. I remember when one particular group, you really did a profound job in leading that. They had lost someone,
Yeah.
and that particular, like, that whole week shifted for that group, and we totally transformed that week. We had a plan, and you played an essential role in bringing balance, and like, how can we help this group lament and be with them in this season of laments. But yeah, you brought such great balance for me, that made me get through the whole summer. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you for offering the same. So we made it through.
we
We
made
made
it
it
through.
through.
We made it through. Tell me what you're listening to. You know, as I think we
Oh,
talked about too, especially Christian rap, which I'm in love with. I'm still very much
oh,
in love with.
all
I
right.
don't often. Some of them I don't follow their theology, but when music is good, it's good. So tell me who's on your playlist.
Yes, yes. So my relation with Christian hip hop in particular, which I think answers the question in part, is really fascinating, because as I continue to have these kind of deconstructive experiences, Christian hip hop really struggled to articulate much of things of value for me. And as I was continuing to explore hip hop in general, I'm a music nerd, so like I'm trying to figure out who played bass guitar in that song. They slapped on that. Let me find out. And oh, okay, cool. So this person's writing for. So I'm a big music nerd, and as I started to dig deeper into a lot of the Christian hip hop, they were parodying or miming, secular hip hop like way too closely. So
Mm.
dudes were getting signed because they sounded like Future when Future was hot. Dudes were getting signed because they could sing and rap like Drake when Drake was hot. And I was like, oh, this, if I want to hear that, I'm just going to go listen to Drake because I don't want to hear your awful atonement theology over this beat that is mid. I can just go listen to Drake and 40 put something fire together. But a lot of the hip hop is, we either get dudes talking about systemic racism or personal sin.
Mm.
So in personal, like, sure, let's talk about personal sin, but like, there's a lot of dudes will drop an album and half the song is about like, oh, I'm such a sinner, I'm such a like awful person, Christ forgive me. The other half's like, I love my wife, I love my wife, hip hop, I love my wife. She's my Proverbs 31 woman, and it's like, all right, like that's been like we've done that a lot already, and we're not doing any sort of expansive theological work here.
Mm.
And not every rapper is a theologian, but a lot of these dudes are communicating like, Jesus died on the tree for me. And I think that's like a way too small view of the cross. And we got dudes like that's their whole shtick is rapping about that. And while guys like we pick on guys like Lecrae, his music's definitely expanded, but he is to me kind of a chameleon of whatever the culture is. And I think back when I was in high school, I started listening to Lecrae. And so I had this kind of conversion moment, and some of Lecrae's music was very instrumental there. But then as I started to get more into his music, I'm thinking about like when he dropped Jesus music, riding with my top down, listening to that Jesus. I think he made a reference to having a Johnny Mac in the back of the car. I was like, "What's that's not a gun? What's a Johnny Mac?" And it's a John MacArthur study Bible, so I picked one of those up.
Mhm.
John MacArthur is highly problematic,
Mhm.
and has only gotten worse. Like my very frame of spirituality was shaped so much because of Christian hip hop. So while I got away from a lot of that, a lot of these artists just don't have content that can speak to something that's still not that many steps past that. Or we have like songs about systemic racism, which I also think are like a little bit played out and corny at this point. Like everybody got a song about police brutality,
Yeah.
and very few of them are any good. But it rotates a lot. Like sometimes I'll just go and listen to only alternative music, only like lo-fi music. I'm all over the place, and I'm always playing music. But the last few months, it's been the weekend, Tyler and Betty.
Yeah. This past week I've been playing the Roots album. Uh,
Yes.
not the Roots group, but the Roots, the soundtrack, the Roots.
Oh, oh,
Which was done by Quincy Jones. Yeah, let's not.
yes.
No, let me tell you. Let me tell you. If you've never listened to it, listen to it, honey. It's it's everything. There's some real soulful um, music that needed. I just needed to be grounded in. And yeah, I've just been. I think I've been listening to like just old hymns.
Mm,
Uh just more recently, especially after I think for me like when an elder passed, so I'm thinking about Cicely Tyson a lot, like, and she was a part of Roots, the filming of that, and that's what really moved me to play
mm,
the album. So there's for me there's always like, where's the balance in all of this, like,
yeah.
I think there's the culture, the grind, you talk, coming back full circle, the grind culture of having to produce and being like, for me, like being this content creator, and even though I have all of these social media I am very much not a social media person. Like, I go in there to post my thing and I'm out, you know what I mean? But there's this grind culture to create, to produce, to put things out there. And when I look at the lives of those who did it before, with in this culture, this the social media culture was not present. I'm thinking about the Whitney Houston. I'm thinking about the Michael Jackson, right? The pressure of it,
Yeah.
and these young, brilliant talents, like their life was short lived. I mean, for myriads of reasons, not just that, but I'm like, maybe it balances out the playing field. Like, you don't have to be the it person. I think Beyonce. I think about Beyonce a lot, and just how she moves. I don't. We don't see her often.
Yeah.
Rihanna. We don't see. Her often. I think they bring a good balance. Like, I've arrived to the point I've arrived. At least this is what my interpretation of them and how I'm experiencing them. Like, I don't have to do all of this y'all doing to make it. Like, I've arrived. And when my creative self decides to come back into this playing field, I'll come out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and lay back. That's what I'm trying to be. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. I mean, I think it challenges notions of what mastery means, and
Mm,
expertise, and those folks are we would probably define them as masters of their craft, but to arrive at a place of mastery doesn't always have to be a place of dominance. And I also don't know if, like, and this is unrelated, but how we think about mastery as like viewers and intakers of culture is like that's the pinnacle of the art, is if you can master it, and that forms us in some unhealthy ways too. But for you to be able to say, I'm gonna post on social media, but not for the sake of being able to master it or maximize it. And I think a lot of people don't know, like, I can't get to Beyonce's level, I can't get to Rihanna's space if I'm not mastering the thing that I'm doing.
mm,
And I see the same thing in like theological and ministry spaces. I got to have a mastery over what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and that culture is just really pervasive, and it feels like maybe one of the worst outgrowths of our kind of capitalistic system.
mm.
Uh, and I wonder what it means for these kind of emerging talents to be able to start at a place of, you don't need to have mastery, you don't need to be a master over what your art is. You just need to create in a way that's whole and healthy for you.
Yeah, and love what you do and love it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's like I'm doing this because I love it. I don't get paid to do it. Like, I know I'm good at it and I love it. And I'm satisfied. I'm content.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Josh. We got to wrap up. I mean, we can talk and talk and talk and talk. Josh, let the folks know where they can reach you, how they can hand, because I know you're not a social media person, but and what's up next for you? What's up next? What can they look out for?
Yes. So you can connect with me directly on Twitter. Also help create an organization called the Kindred Collective. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. What is next for me is I'm currently co-authoring a book, collaborating on a book. It's an anti-racism toolkit for churches. I'm also, continuing to coach and consult churches, and just interested in what this next season holds in terms of writing and facilitation. I think there's some different outgrowths of how we've existed organizationally that we want to step into. And I'm currently in school, but finishing up here soon, and I'm going to start dreaming a little bit more now. So when I'm done, we can start to create and imagine spaces for emerging leaders of color, to have practices of formation and sustainability. So that's to be on the lookout. But first, that book, and then we go from there.
That's what's up. Thank you once again for sitting with me. Again, I am so proud of you, and I look forward to sitting with you again, and just to break bread, break knowledge, and share with the people. You have tuned in to yet another season of TTYL or Not. I have been having such a joyous occasion and sitting with my little brother, Josh Riddick. I am your host, Rev to Say. See you next time. Peace. This season of TTYL or Not is being funded by Independence Public Media Foundation and supported by Good Pitch, Doc Society, and Love Now Media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, TTYL or Not, and click on notification for updated episodes.